here to learn how to use the wonderful product known as OU Campus version 10. I'm going to start out with the good news. Before we begin, you want to separate OU Campus from the website. OU Campus is the content management system. The website is what OU Campus updates. And I'm telling you to separate them because we're using the new version of OU Campus version 10, but you're still going to be updating the old pages, the version, we'll call them the version 1 pages. The new templates probably won't be ready for about another month, maybe even a month and a half. We just gave OU Campus the code so that they can start building out templates for us. But this way you all will get a chance to kind of play around in version 10 and get a feel for things. The good thing about that is, since it's the same templates in the new CMS, not that much has changed. There's a lot of changes to the layout and just kind of the overall style. The image editor and uploader have been improved by about 100 times, but the same process that you go through for editing pages is pretty much going to be the same. Hooray. So you're not starting from zero. And this is, I'm going to set this up as just kind of a beginner's guide to everything, and then at the end I'm going to leave about 30 minutes for any questions anybody might have, folks who are wondering. The same process for logging in is still in place. You're going to want to navigate to a page that you have access to. For those of you who are new, if somebody in Medical College of Georgia were to try to edit a page under Career Services, they'd get an error because they don't have permissions for it. Everything is group-based. Once you're on that page, at the bottom of every page that comes out of OU Campus is this little copyright symbol. It doesn't look like a link, but I promise you it is. And I should also point out, whatever works best for you as far as learning goes. Some people like to watch me go through the first one. Other people like to log in and follow along on their computers. It's whatever makes you all most comfortable. Okay. Once there, you're going to go to the login screen, and this is where you'll sign in with that new OU Campus login that you just set up. Those of you who've seen version 9, you should notice this looks somewhat familiar. You still got your big editing window with your different areas that you can click on to edit. You have your menu across the top. OU Campus is also referred to as a staging server, and that's just a fancy way of saying it's a place for you to work on your pages without them being live. I'm actually on a different server now. I'm not even on gru.edu. So you can go in, make changes to your pages. Nobody's going to see it until you hit the big green publish button at the top. So consider it kind of a safety net. Depending on how your page is set up, you're going to have 2, maybe 3 of these editable region buttons that you're concerned about. If you've got the center content area, you'll have this one. If your page has the right rail turned on, you'll see one over here. And if you have a banner that goes across the top of the page, you may see one there. Ignore the one by the side nav and the Contact Us box. Those we're going to make active in version 10. The process for editing the side nav and the Contact Us box is still the same for now, and we'll go over that too. There are still 3 main views in OU Campus. This is the large screen editing view, and those of you who had my version 9 training know that I always tell you to expand your view as soon as you sign in because it's easier. Instead of that tiny little green arrow that was up at the top left, if you want to see a list of your files and folders, you just click on the file folder icon. And that's going to show you the page, but you're also going to see in this left side whatever directory you're in. In my case, I'm in the training folder, and I'm looking at all the other files and subfolders that are in there. This is a bad example, but if I were in the web folder, I could actually jump around to any of these files and edit those. So just because I signed in on that one page doesn't mean that I'm stuck there. I can go to any page that I need to once I'm signed in. Go back into my training folder. OU Campus still works on a check-in, check-out system. Those of you who are in areas that have multiple publishers, you don't want someone trying to get in to edit the page at the same time you are. So before you can do anything, you're going to want to check the page out. And you do that by either clicking the light bulb here at the top, or you can click the one next to the name of the file that you want to edit. Either way will work. When you click that, you'll notice you'll get a one or two different options, and now it's just a matter of clicking on the edit button next to the region you want to edit. Edit. Once I click that, those of you who use 9, and actually those of you who haven't used it, should breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. Your editing window is set up kind of like Microsoft Word. I always tell people, if you can edit a Word document, you can do basic editing in OU Campus. I won't go through all of these because they're kind of self-explanatory, but you've got your formatting options, bold and italic. You can do bulleted and numbered list if you want to indent something. You also have your alignment, left, right, center. They're grayed out now, but these are your icons for making links, and we'll go through those in just a second. The symbols library is one that I'll make sure to point out to you. You may need an accented character for something or some kind of special symbol. This is your symbols library, and by clicking it, you've got access to some different characters that you can't necessarily type in on a keyboard. And what I like about them is once you add them to the page, they're just like normal text. So I can go ahead, and if I want to boldface that, I can. I can even go through and italicize whatever. I can even make it a link if need be. So that part of the process has not changed. If you need to make a link to something, you've still got the same options. Before you can make that link, you're going to have to select something. So you're either going to click on a picture or you're going to select a line of text. And when I do that, you're going to notice that these icons on my top right are going to light up once I select something. These are universal icons. They're the same pretty much any kind of web content system you're using. The chain, link of chain, that's create, edit link. The broken chain, break or remove a link. The envelope will set up an email address. So if somebody clicks on it, it'll open up whatever email program they have for them automatically. Once I click that link, if you are really, really smart, and you would be a whole lot smarter than I am if you could do this, if you know the exact web address of every page on the internet, you are more than welcome to just type it in there. I'm not vain. That is literally the only site I could think of to type in as an example. I am not that good, so normally what I do is just go to the page that I want to link to, and I'll just copy the URL from there and paste it into my box here. This way I know that the page is loading because I just went there, and I don't have to worry about typos. Those of you who've read emails from me know that I tend to make a lot of those. And then you have the option to open it in this window or open it in a new window. There's no hard and fast rule for that one. If you're going to someone else's site, like in this case I'm linking to something on Duke, I'd probably have it open in a new window. That way people could get back to ours. The exception to that might be if you have a page of links, like a resources page. If you have a page that has 20 or 30 links on it, and every time they click on one of those, it opens up in a new window, that could get to be kind of annoying. And if you take nothing else away from this class today, if you think it's going to be annoying, don't do it. I cannot stress that one enough. Because usually when they see that, they call me and yell. The other way of making a link involves browsing. This way only works if you're linking to a page on gru.edu. And it's the same process. You'll still select it, click your icon for your chain, and this time I'm going to hit this browse square. And in OU Campus, this is always your browse button whenever you see it. And now I'm seeing all the pages on my site that have been published. Now that's important to remember. If you create a new page and just save it and walk away, you can't make a link to it because it hasn't been published out of OU Campus yet. It's only going to let you link out to something that's on the live site. A new feature that they've added, and this will really come into play when we're uploading images and documents, you have a filter option now. So if you kind of know the name of the page that you're looking for, you can just type in a couple of characters and it'll filter out the names for you so you can find it easily. You are not limited to just linking to pages in your own folder. You can use these breadcrumbs at the top to work your way all the way back up to the main site. So I'm in the web team folder now. I can go up a level to the communications and marketing folder, which is our division, and then I can go up one more level and I'm on the root of gru.edu. And I can scroll through here and select any of these folders and pick a file to link to. Yes?
I don't see the little web. The web, you were showing how to go to the web, and I don't see that option to click. Where would I?
The one over here?
Yeah.
Now, it's going to vary. I just happen to be in the web folder. It's called, because the web team folder is called /web, gru.edu/, yeah. So it'll be specific to your area.
Gotcha. So
you'd probably see career services, but then you can go up a level from there, and you'll see it. So you can link to pages like that also. And when you've done that, don't be alarmed if you see a number here instead of the URL. That's just OU Campus trying to keep track of the links. Anything internal that we link to, OU Campus will try to make a note of it, and then if somebody were to delete that page later, OU Campus could say, hey, that page is linked here, here, and here. Are you sure you want to do that? It's by no means perfect, and it only works for pages within our site, but it's a nice little feature. And from there, it's just a matter of hitting insert. Those of you who are new, I'll also point out, you've heard of a WYSIWYG editor, which just stands for what you see is what you get. The way our current system is set up, we have a what you see is about 75% of what you get. So when you're in the editing mode, you're not getting a true representation of what the page will look like. But when you save and preview, and you do that by hitting the little diskette to the left, you will see the page formatted properly. So don't be alarmed if you're in the edit mode and things look a little bit off. I think the new templates will be embedded into version 10, so the edit mode will be a better representation. Don't hold me to that though, otherwise I'll deny it. Okay, we looked at links, boldface, bullets, symbols. Now for the fun one that I know everybody wants to talk about, images. Everybody loves pictures. We actually have some departments, they care more about the pictures on their page than the actual content on their page. I'm not going to call anybody out because y'all might go back and tell on me. They have streamlined the process. You can batch upload images now, and the filter also works on the images, so you can search better to see if what you need is already on there. Just like with links, there are two ways to insert images. Whichever way is more comfortable for you is the right way. They'll both work. The most common way is to put your cursor roughly where you want the picture to appear, and this is one of those universal buttons. Whenever you're using a web content system and you see a button that looks like the mountains in the sun, that's always insert edit image. And again, if the image was already uploaded and I knew the exact web address of it, I could type it in. I really ain't that good, so I'm going to browse again. And those of you who use version 9, you should notice this looks a whole lot different than the other uploader. It actually looks, clean and professional. Just like before, you always want to go into your images folder. We've got an images one, you have a documents one. We'll talk about that one later. It's good for housekeeping. If all your pictures are in this one central folder, it's easier to track them down later if you have to replace them or remove something. And just like I mentioned earlier, if I need to filter it out, I could just type in a few letters. And what I'm going to do is borrow a couple of images from the pictures library here. And sadly, since it's the Windows default ones, they're probably going to be the same ones. Here's one. And let's do this. See, if I was smart, I would have brought a thumb drive with some images on it. So I've looked through my folder here and I do not see the image that I want to use. So that means I'm going to have to upload it from a flash drive, from my desktop, or somewhere. And just a quick example, some of you may see this view, which is just a list, and that would require you to click on each one in order to preview it. If you click on the little square icon here on the right, that's going to give you your thumbnail view, so you can at a glance see them. As I said before, I don't see the one I want, so I'm going to have to upload. There are two uploading options. I can only tell you about one of them because we only just got access to OU Campus version 10 a couple of days ago. So the image editor that is built into OU Campus 10, I have not had a chance to try it out yet. When I do, we'll try to do some instructions for it. I'm told that it does not use Java, so there is a chance it will actually work on the computers on campus. Fingers crossed on that one. So the option we want is going to be upload. And from here, it's just a matter of either clicking on the add button and browsing to my desktop, or let me put these side by side. Whoops. And where'd that other one go? Ah, there's the other one. Or I can drag and drop into that window. Now, I got an error on one of these. The file naming conventions have not changed. Those are web standards. That's not something we came up with on our own. Any file names that you're uploading has to be all lowercase, no spaces, no special characters. Hyphens are okay, dashes are okay, underscores are okay. Pound signs, exclamation marks are not okay. And yeah, all lowercase, no spaces, and no special characters, with the exception of underscores and dashes. Those two are fine. All right. So it's going to give me the option to rename it right here. I don't need to go and open it up and save another copy or anything. And I'm just going to throw a dash in here and hit the enter key. And now it's changed color, so I know I can go in. When you rename it, you're only renaming it for the upload process. What the name on the computer or the flash drive that you're uploading it from will not change. And depending on how big the image is and how many you have, it could take a minute or two to upload. While it's doing that, I always get a question about what is the required size for images on the website. There isn't one. It just depends on the image and the layout of your page. The only thing I can tell you is that no matter what your boss tells you, a mug shot probably shouldn't be any more than about 150 or 200 pixels wide. But anything else is going to vary. If it's a big map, you probably want it larger so they can see the details. The bird gallery, they tend to run their images larger because it's artwork. Group shots, they may be a little bit wider than most, but really it's just going to depend on your page. When class is over, I'll give you all a link to a page that actually has the widths of these different areas. This one is around, I want to say 612 pixels, the center area. And so you'll keep that in mind when you're doing your images. If I put an image up here that's 300 pixels wide, I've taken away half of this space. And that could cause some really weird text wrapping. Now, I think if you turn this off, I think it jumps all the way up to about 870. But you just kind of want to be aware of that. Pictures should enhance your page, but you don't want to overpower the content itself, because that's what people are coming for. We hope anyway. So now that my images have been uploaded, I can just close this window. And there's a new image, the one that I uploaded, and there's a bad name, the one that I fixed and then uploaded. The other thing this will show you is you'll see the size of the image, the file size and the dimensions. This is leading into the second part of what you should do with images. It's usually a good idea, I shouldn't say usually, it's always a good idea to resize the image before you upload it. Most of you are going to be taking images direct off of digital cameras or something, and they're huge. They'll be 3,000, 4,000 pixels wide. Well, again, you've only got about 600 pixels worth of space to work with. So you're going to want to use, you don't need Photoshop. There's Microsoft Picture Editor. There's a free program called Pixlr. It's a web-based program that you can use. And it's also a good idea to do it because a lot of browsers, they ignore the dimensions command. And I'll show you what I mean by the dimensions command right now. So I'm going to insert this. We have to be ADA compliant, so you have to add an image description. If you try to insert one without it, you're going to get an error message. If someone's using a screen reader to look at our site, when it gets to that picture, it won't know what to do. So you've got to have an image description that just kind of says what's in there. Doesn't need to be a full paragraph. Could be something as simple as photo of Dr. Smith, students in the research lab, art exhibit at the bird gallery. I just did some changes to the bird gallery page, so it's fresh on my mind. Title is optional, but I'm going to fill it out so that you can see what it does, because it actually is kind of cool and useful. Then I'm going to look at my appearance tab. This is where you can actually kind of control how the photo is going to be presented. You have your alignment options. You can do left side of the page with the text wrapped on the right hand side, or reverse it, right hand side of the page with the text on the left. There are some other ones. Most of them, it's very weird kind of formatting. This one puts a line of text at the top of the image, then wraps the other stuff behind it. You'll usually want to stick with left and right. If you'll notice in this example, my text is bumped right up against the image. There's no breathing room, there's no space. That's where your vertical and horizontal spacing comes into play. I can just come in here and insert a number, and usually between 3 to 5 is enough, and it's going to put a little breathing room there for me. And the higher the number, obviously, the bigger the space. Border, I never use, primarily because all it does is puts a very ugly black border around your picture, and also because a lot of times when people see an image with a border, they think it's a link. So just to avoid confusion and aesthetically, we do want to, as part of our web governance, we're going to set some actual styles for things on the website, which we should have had about 5-6 years ago. And in this class drop-down, we want to have some preset styles that you all can pick from. So it could be something like, well, we've got one now, right-aligned image with a caption field. If you do need a border, right-aligned image with blue border, right-aligned image with green border, depending on what department you're in. So those will come, web governance and the web redesign are running side by side. So hopefully they'll come out about the same time. We'll just do no. And one last thing, for those of you who know HTML or CSS or want to learn a little bit of it, as I'm making changes to these fields here, you'll notice it's adjusting this code. This is actually the CSS code that is using the style of the photo. So if you ever wondered exactly what's going on in the background, this is the kind of stuff that OU Campus prevents you from having to know. And I'm going to go ahead and take this out. I'm showing you the dimensions field last because this is what you should not use. This image is 1920 pixels wide. That is way too big for my page. If I were to go in and say, okay, show it at 250 pixels wide, I'm not physically changing the image. I'm putting an instruction in so that every time that page loads, the web browser is going to get an instruction that says, hey, take this big picture and shrink it down. In addition to wasting resources, it's also going to make your page load slower because the web browser has to take a half second or a second in order to process that instruction. And if you have a page that has a bunch of photos on it, maybe headshots or I think Study Abroad, they've got all the little pictures of where they've been. I've seen where people have images, it takes a minute, minute and a half for their page to load because they have a bunch of giant images that they just switch down. The other reason you don't want to do this, and I wish I'd had my example pulled up, not all browsers obey that command. Some inferior browsers, Internet Explorer, they don't care what the dimensions say. I could say, okay, show it at 250 pixels. Internet Explorer is going to say, nope, it's 120, 1200 pixels. I'm going to show it at 1200 pixels. So if you've ever seen pages where the images look perfectly sized right in Firefox or Chrome, but not in Internet Explorer, that's why. And that's an IE bug, not an OU10 bug. So again, open up an image editing program, resize or crop it before you upload it. Save yourself some headaches. I'm doing it because it's training and I don't want to keep you all too long. So do as I say, not as I do. So from here, I have my image. It's like Word in that I can drag it around on the page a little bit if need be. I can also change it out if I have to. I can right-click on it and do Insert Edit Image. Or while I have it selected, I can just click on my Mountains and Sun button again. And I can come in, and if I want to change any of the things that were there. I can do them here, or I can swap out and get an entirely new image. Okay. Now, very quickly, I'm going to save and preview something. As far as saving goes, if you do on a PC, if you do Control S, that's going to save and let you continue working. If you hit the diskette here on the top left, that's going to save and take you to preview mode. And again, preview mode gives you a much better depiction of how the page is going to look. And I mentioned that title field earlier. That's your title field. Whenever someone mouses over the image and leaves the cursor there, they'll see whatever's in that title field, a little message. So if you have some kind of a call to action, you know, learn more about this scholarship, meet the team, something along those lines, that would be a good place for that. Again, totally optional. Image description is the one you have to have. Title is just if you want to be cute. All right, so we'll go back into edit mode. Sadly, there are no documents on this computer, but your documents are going to work the same way as images. For those of you who are new, when we say documents, we just mean anything that's not a web page. If somebody comes up and gives you a PDF of a newsletter or a Word doc with their CV, a PowerPoint presentation, or an Excel spreadsheet, those are what we consider documents. First and foremost, you should always see if the document should be a document. Sometimes it's easier to just create a new blank web page and copy and paste the text into it. Obviously, if it's something that has a lot of heavy formatting, like a newsletter or something, that wouldn't be the case. But if somebody just has a Word document of an announcement and it's 2 or 3 paragraphs, make a blank web page, paste the text in, and save it. It'll be easier for your users to get to, and it'll be easier to edit in the future if need be. With documents, you're basically forcing your users to open up another program in order to view them. And if you know anything about how Microsoft Office works, 1, not everybody has the newest and greatest version, and 2, not everybody installs all the components. I know people who don't install Excel, don't install PowerPoint because they have no use for it. But if you put a PowerPoint or an Excel document on there for them to view, they're going to have problems. If it's at all possible and it has to be a document, consider saving it as a PDF. Most web browsers, they can handle PDFs natively, so there's no need for anything extra. Having said that, if it's a fillable Word document that they need to fill out and mail in, put it as a Word document. I would recommend maybe saving it a version or 2 behind, just in case, so people can get to it. But kind of like with images, with documents, it just kind of depends on the content. If you're having issues and need some advice, by all means, you can contact us and we'll be happy to kind of steer you in the right direction. But documents are just links, so you'll still start out by selecting some text. Actually, I'm going to select the image just to show you all that an image can be a link. You'll click your chain icon, and again, you'll do browse. And like I mentioned earlier, you have an images folder, and you also have a documents folder. Sadly, it does not preview them. I think that is actually a feature request that we have, but you can filter them out. So I can see what's already been uploaded. But in this case, I don't see what I want. It's the same as with my images. I would just click the upload button and drag and drop and make my link. Again, I wish I had one on here to use, but the file naming convention is also the same, lowercase, no spaces, all that good stuff. And from there, you will just link to it and decide if you want it to open in a new window or not. Depending on how their computer is set up, on the user side, they may have it set where it just downloads them automatically. So there is a way for a user may decide to override that setting. All right, let's go ahead and cancel that.
Are we supposed to be able to see our images and documents from this side menu? Because on ours, I can only see it when I try to insert something, and it gets a little squiggly bars.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, but if we click on images, the documents, and the
On the one on the left?
menu,
Mm-hmm.
nothing shows up. It says read as a readme file.
Okay, so what you're looking at is probably on the, what do they call it? The staging server view. Let's see if I can.
That's the way it's supposed to.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Now, but when you go in and browse, you would see them there.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, so let me go back. All right, so I'm back on my training index. I did the links. Next up, we're going to talk about page properties, Oh, good, we're still doing good on time. When we say page properties, we're just talking about some little fields of information where you fill in the blank and it gets styled automatically. So your title, which is what appears up here in the top of your web browser, that's a page property. It's a fairly important page property because it's also what shows up in search engine results. These are page titles that it's pulling from those properties fields on our site. We're also going to talk about the breadcrumbs. Those of you who remember your fairy tales, the old Hansel and Gretel one, they use the breadcrumbs to find their way home. I just mentioned search engines. A lot of our traffic comes from search engines. And because of that, not everybody is going straight to your home page like we'd like them to. It's possible for somebody to land on a page that could be 5, 6 levels deep on the site. These breadcrumbs will let them work their way back up to your area, and even all the way up to the main home page. I had a bit again. So somebody Googled the name of the chairman of this department and they land on this page. So they're looking at this chairman's office message. These breadcrumbs will take them to the top of their department, the Department of Medicine. They can go up further to their college, in this case the medical college. They could go to the main list of colleges to see where, what all we have to offer. Or they could jump right back home and get to gru.edu. So it's really something for your users to kind of help them figure out where the heck am I and what is this place. And we're going to look at the page heading. The page heading was set up like this so that we could have some consistency across the site. We didn't necessarily want one department having a page heading that was a hot pink Comic Sans font, and another department having a neon green Papyrus font, and another department having a blood red Times New Roman font. So we set up a heading field where all you do is type in the text and it does the styling automatically. Now you'll see why that is a toothless tiger in just a second. And there's one other field, but you need to be in properties to actually see it. You get to your properties field by having the page checked out and clicking on the properties button. Those of you who used version 9 probably remember there was a little green button that was just labeled props. This is that same thing. Okay. And here's where you can edit those page parameters. These top two are what's important for search engines. You've got your page title and you've got your description. Page title is what Google is pulling here. Description is what Google is pulling here. If you've ever gotten spam email and it says something along the lines of, for $5,000, I can show you how to get your pages ranked higher in search engines. You will pay them $5,000, and what they will come and do is look at your page properties. And they will give them some clear titles, and they'll work on your description fields for you. That is the majority of what they're going to do. So, if any of you happen to go in and edit your titles and description fields, and you see a slight bump in your Google rankings, you can then give your bosses a bill for $5,000. And who knows, maybe they'll actually pay you. Keywords are blank. Keywords are blank because most search engines don't use them anymore because people were abusing them. You would use your keywords to kind of describe how it fit in the index. So we would have something like Augusta, whatever college I was in, maybe if it was a profile of a person, we'd have Dr. Smith. And then at the end of that, I would add iPhone 7, Justin Bieber, Lindsay Lohan, Playboy scandal. That's what people were doing. They were putting in words that were commonly searched, but had nothing to do with their page in order to get some extra traffic. Exactly. So needless to say, most search engines have said we're not even going to bother with keywords anymore. So this field, you can put them there if you want, but it's not going to have any say in how it's done. How we doing on time? All right, perfect. Your custom settings, this is those page elements that we talked about. Again, you've got your breadcrumb field, and your breadcrumb should just be something short and simple. It doesn't have to be anything super long. You do have the option to turn it off. I can't think of too many reasons why you would. Maybe if you have a giant map on your page or something and you want a little more space. But from a user standpoint, it's probably best to keep them on. Your page heading, I talked about that toothless tiger. So we set it up where the page heading was going to be a certain style and a certain format, and then we gave people the ability to turn it off so that they could still add their own. So, yes, exactly. It is there, and you can turn it off. We're not going to come after you yet. That may be something in web governance that they cover, but that's still a little ways down the line. Banner type. I'm going to briefly give you all a preview of version 10. Version 10 is going to be module based, and there's supposed to be a field where you can say, hey, I want a rotator here, and you just go turn the rotator field on. That is not active in this one. Right now, if you need a rotator, you contact us, we set the rotator up for you, and show you how you can change out the pictures yourself. So for right now, your only options, while we're still in the old templates, are none and static banner. And I'm going to go ahead and set it as static banner. And lastly, we're going to look at page layout. You have two options here. You've got the 3-column view, and that's the one that has that right rail. And then you have the full width view. And the full width view, it still has the menu, but it turns the right rail off. And I'm going to go ahead and switch it to that so you can see the difference. These right column elements, that's something that's for version 10, so you can ignore those. We want to give you guys the ability to add a news feed to your page if you'd like. So if there's a list of headlines somewhere you'd like to show up, we're going to give you those. We're also going to tell you to be careful when you add news feeds to your site, because you don't control the headlines to show up. Perfect example, someone in another department asked me for a feed of Georgia Regents University headlines from the Augusta Chronicle. So anytime the Chronicle wrote a story, it would pop up. I had to remind them that not every story the Chronicle writes about Georgia Regents University is a nice story. You wouldn't want Georgia Regents University lays off 50 people to show up on your department homepage. Just throwing it out there. Or your students page. That's probably not going to recruit a lot of students. But that will come in version 10. So you're only concerned about everything under title and meta tags through layout and style.
You know, I don't have layout and style in any of the other properties and the pages I'm looking at. Is that?
Are those pages that you have access to?
Yeah, I've checked out, for instance, our Get Experience page. I went to several just thinking maybe it's a different set. It has title and meta tags, custom settings, breadcrumb, display heading,
but no
display
page.
left sidebar.
Oh, you're on a different template. You have some different options because you have that horizontal template. That's why. I'll show you some of your options later. Yeah, you've got some different ones. Once that's done, you hit save, and you can see my page layout has changed. I've got this default placeholder image. My right rail is gone, and my content has stretched out to take up the full width of that space since the right rail is not there anymore. And I mentioned editable regions. That banner image is just a separate area that I can go in and edit. And I change it out the same way I change out any other photo. Once I click on it, I can go to Browse. Now, whenever you see this particular image, it's set up as a default. Don't be alarmed where when you go to Browse, you're going to see this really weird URL. That's just the default where that photo resides. You can still browse back to your folder to find one of your own or to upload one. So just like I'm in this, just like I'm in the resources images, I can go back up to the GRU home root, and I can drill down into anybody's folder. And I'll just kind of pick one at random. Well, none of these work. Okay then. Let's pick on career services again. Maybe they've got an image I can steal. There we go. That one is probably a little too big for the space, but you get the idea. Oh no, that was fine. So that banner image, that's your area. You can change them out. 612 is the max width, and you're going to want to keep it at that. But the good thing about that area is if I decide later, oh wait, I need that right rail after all, I can come back into properties and go ahead and turn it back on, set it back to 3 column. It's going to add that right rail, and it will adjust the size of that image for me automatically. Before we go into how to publish, I do want to point out, those of you who have the right rail, when you turn it on for the first time, you're probably going to see a calendar, just kind of a default calendar that shows up. You are not required to keep that in there. That is just as a placeholder. You'd be amazed how many people think that we're forcing them to have that calendar in there. This right rail is just another editable area. You can add text in here. You can add a video if need be. You can put images in here. Anything you can put in the big one, you can add in this one. I want to say the size limit is about 200 pixels wide. Oh, actually, no. Let's go to web. Here I am. So again, anything, you have the same level of control as far as what you put in there. Alright, so we did that. My version 9 users, the way you edit the side nav and the contact us box has not changed. Those are still separate files. They're still include files. And they're set up like that so that you only have to change it once, and that change will appear on every page in your directory. So for example, in this web folder, I've got 40 or 50 pages. If I want to add a link to a new page, I don't want to have to open each one of those in order to add it. So what I'm going to do is go to my side nav, and your side nav is this left rail, left menu, whatever you want to call it, and it is just a list of bulleted links. All of the styling and all that you see is done on the back end, so you just have to maintain a list of links. And it's just a matter of me creating another bullet, and I'm just going to hit the enter key, and I'll just call this new page. And it's the same process for linking. I just browse through and find whatever page I want to link to. And if I go ahead and publish this, just so you all can see that I'm not a liar. So there's that link to that new page. I didn't make the link properly, so that's why it's looking a little bit funky, but it's there. But what I really want you to see is it's showing up on every page that's in that web folder. I didn't have to open up each page just to add one new link. Let me go in and undo this real quick. Actually, let's just do this. Let's go to versions. And let's revert. Now I'm just putting this one back to normal so I don't forget. And your contact us box works the same way. And just so you know, when we say the contact us box, we mean this little area down here. It's also an include. And if you look in your includes folder, it's just called department contact. And it's just plain text that you can go in and edit. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. We always say it's not meant to be a full department directory. It's just kind of quick, at a glance contact information. I always give the example of how MCG did theirs. The college was getting calls from people who were looking for the hospital. So in their contact info, they made sure to list both numbers so that people would know, hey, if you're having a heart attack, you probably want to call these people and not us if you want to schedule an appointment or something. And they also added in little icons for their social media stuff. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go back to that training page that I was working on. So I've made my changes to this page. I'm in love with it. I think it's great. It's award-winning, and I'm ready to publish it. You still have your publish button, but you have a couple of options that may have been there before but weren't really available right away. And I'm just hitting the little drop-down menu here. The first option is schedule. That's self-explanatory. If you're lazy like I am, maybe you have a page and it's something time sensitive and they say this page needs to be published at 8 o'clock on Monday morning. If you're like me, you maybe don't walk in until around 8:30 on Monday morning. I could schedule this and have it published on a specific date and time for me. I make my changes in OU Campus, I save it, schedule it, and walk away. Because remember, even if you save it, nothing is live until it's published. Submit for approval. There's a long story behind this one. Part of web governance is going to be setting up an approval process. It will be optional, and it will be department-based. So we're not saying you guys are going to have all your pages approved by the web team, but some departments want the option to have a central approver. They may have 4 or 5 publishers, but they want one person to look at all these changes before they go live. That's where the submit for approval will come into play. Whoever that publisher is could then click that, and it would go to whoever the approver is, and they could say it's fine and send it out, or they can say no, it's not fine, and send it back to that person for changes. Again, we have no plans on being the final approver for all pages on the site, primarily because we like keeping our sanity.
You have all that extra time, don't you?
Yes, exactly. I have a great story about one department that did try this, and it did not work, but I won't go into it. Expire is kind of like the dimensions thing that I showed you earlier, in that it's probably something you should never use. Expire removes a page from the website, from the live website. It'll leave the OU Campus version. You're essentially breaking the link if you expire a page. So if you publish this page, you put links to it in 2 or 3 places, then later on when a deadline or whatever is passed and you expire it, you're still going to have those broken links floating around on the site. If you have something that's time sensitive and it needs to end on a certain date, the schedule feature is a better option. Let me try and remember my scholarship example. So I've got a scholarship. March 1st is the day it opens for people to be able to sign up to apply for it. On March 1st, I'm going to push that page out with the sign-up form and all the information that they need. Once that page is published, I'll go back into OU Campus, and I'm going to edit it with a message that says, application deadline is closed, please check back next year, or application deadline is closed, please contact these people for other options. And then I'm going to schedule that page to publish on the deadline date. So that way it'll just overwrite the old information. The page will still be there for next year, so it'll be easier for you to find and update. And it just saves a lot of hassle. You don't have to worry about broken links or anything like that. Every time I see these features, I try to think of examples for why you would use them. I have not come up with one for Expire yet. When I do, I promise you all will be the first to know.
I have an example. We have an annual job fair.
Mm-hmm.
Once the job fair is over, we don't need that page anymore.
So it would be totally gone. It wouldn't be a matter of saying, check back next year.
I mean, we could, and we usually do.
Mm-hmm.
But we could, if we wanted to hide it.
Right.
We could have it expire because we're really going to recreate it or drag it back up the next year.
From the new
I
one?
guess that's an option.
That could work, and you would just want to make sure to remember your links, any places you've linked to that page.
And don't we have the ability to run to see how many broken links?
Yes.
Right there.
Yeah, there's a link checker built into OU Campus, and there's also Site Improve, which is quite possibly the best money we've ever spent. I'll go into detail on that. So I've got this page and I'm ready to publish it. None of these options apply to me, so I'm just going to hit the publish button here. These are optional things you don't have to do. It does have the link checker. It's very basic, and it only checks the links on that particular page that you're publishing. If you need something to check the links for your entire department or your entire folder, we have a tool called Site Improve. And Cecilia Thomas can set you up with an account. It actually crawls the entire site, and it looks for broken links, it looks for misspellings, and there's one other thing it checks for, and I, for the life of me, cannot remember it. And then you can go in and open up OU Campus and fix them as need be. Version description is 100% optional. I've had 2 people tell me that they always thought it was required. If you're in an area with multiple publishers, it's a good idea to do it. Version description is just where you can put in what did you do to that page. So it could be something as simple as added a cartoon Channing. Doesn't have to be anything too elaborate, just what happened with the page. And you'll see why it comes in handy in just a second. I can also access the schedule field from here if need be, but I just want to go ahead and publish it as is. If you use version 9, you know normally you would get a big window here in the middle of the page. All of your alert messages are at the bottom now, so it'll tell you if it published or if there was an error. You'll see it along here. And I can just view a new window. And there's my page. This is live, it's on the site. Anybody, this isn't linked anywhere, but anybody who may have this address somewhere, this is what they would see. So I published this page, and a week later, my boss comes in screaming bloody murder. Channing, that page is terrible. Why is it live? Why can people see it? You need to go back and undo all of that now. I have 2 options for how to do that. I can either log back in OU Campus, check the page back out, try to remember every little thing that I did and go back and change it. So turn this banner off, go here, delete this text, delete this gorgeous cartoon of me, undo those links, all those little steps. Or I can go back and look at the previous versions, which is what your versions button is here. Every time a page is published, and it's important to remember it's when it's published, not when it's saved, OU Campus makes a copy of the previous version. We have some files that go into the hundreds for the number of versions that they have. From here, I can see what date and time that page was published. I can see who published it. If they filled out that version description, that's what I'm going to see down here. And I have the option to view it. So I can preview that page and see if this is the one that I want to add. And that was one where we did it with a different banner.
With what we were discussing earlier with the expire button,
Mhm.
if we say did change up the page for our annual career fair and then did want that information to go away,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of going back to the previous version.
Okay.
Is that an option? Because usually, I'm trying to think of like what she was talking about, and now I don't even know what he said.
No, that is also an option. But again, it would require you to remember to do that. Whereas if you did the schedule thing, it would do it automatically. I always like to point out, we have very few people who devote 100% of their time to web publishers. All our web publishers have actual full-time jobs. We kind of did a study. Most of our web publishers probably devote 5% of their time to publishing the web. And you'd be amazed how many times someone says, oh, I'll remember to remove that link later. And then later never comes because somebody runs and throws something on their desk and says, do this. Our web publishers range from administrative assistants to faculty members. And it's tough to keep up with. We read a study somewhere, I think it said, a web publisher who devotes 50% of their time to working on the website can only realistically be expected to maintain, I want to say it was around 50 pages. It wasn't any more than 50 pages. We have web publishers who only devote 5 to 10% of their time who are responsible for hundreds of pages. Needless to say, we're trying to change that, but that's why it would work. You would just have to remember to do it. You know, so lighten your load. There's enough stress in the world as is. Once I've viewed and I've seen the one that I want to revert to, and I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning that I did way back in June, I just hit the revert button next to it. It's going to ask me if I'm sure I want to do that. I'm going to say yes. And it's reverted it back, and it says staging server. Again, whenever you hear somebody talk about the staging server or the CMS or the content management system, they're talking about OU Campus. Different names for the same thing. So now if I go into my edit mode, I'm back to the original version of this page. And again, just because I reverted it, it doesn't mean it's been changed on the live site yet. I still need to go through and publish it before it's actually live again. Okay. And that is Intro to OU Campus 10. We didn't go over things like new pages and assets, primarily because that's probably about another 45 minutes to an hour's worth of training, and I don't want to overload you all. And also because right now, 99.9% of what you all are probably doing is editing existing pages. Hopefully, after I'm done with all these intro sessions, I'll be able to do some intermediate training to cover stuff like that, but that's probably about another week or 2 weeks off. We do have some online instructions for types of things. We've just run a little bit over an hour. If anybody has any questions about anything, now's the time. It could be something you want me to go back over again, or something that I didn't cover that you'd like me to. Maybe you want to know some questions about me personally. I'm an Aries. I enjoy long walks on the beach. In my spare time, I like to read stories to blind puppies. My hobbies are spending my vast family fortune. All right. And for anybody who's wondering, I mentioned we did have some online training material. On the web team page, and we're at DCM/web now, Division of Communications and Marketing, we have OU Campus resources. Most of this stuff is still for version 9, but like I mentioned before, a lot of it is still valid for this one since we haven't switched over yet. We have individual guides for things just like logging in, editing text on a page. We have some advanced topics for things like creating a new page and creating a new section. We also have videos for a few things. And for those of you who would like to learn OU 10 a little bit more, underneath the website redesign section, in addition to being the area where we kind of keep you all updated on how the redesign is going and show you all previews of stuff, we have OU Campus 10 resources. This has videos and documentation on the system. It's all provided to us by OmniUpdate, the company that makes OU Campus. So they are very generic examples. You're going to see the screenshots are going to be of their test site. Once we have our site up and running, we'll get some training materials that use our site as an example. But this is actually a good way to kind of get a head start on things. And that's on the website underneath the redesign page, GRU redesign. If you really want to get involved, you can try the learning management system. That's just kind of an interactive tutorial for learning it. We've got instructions on how to get access to it. It's also, you can move at your own pace. So if you're at chapter 1 and it's beginning stuff and you feel like, you know what, I know all this, you can jump ahead to chapter 6 or chapter 7, for those of you super smart people. For more information and other training resources, visit gru.edu/ocm/web.